Continuing on our adventure across Australia from its most westerly point to its most easterly, we found ourselves in Western Australia's gold mining region. The first of these towns was the historic town of Kew. It was a Saturday afternoon and things were rather quiet. Known as the Queen of the Murchison, Kew was once the centre of the Murchison Goldfields with a population of more than 10,000. At the 2016 census, there were only 178 people living in Kew, but the impressive and substantial buildings of the gold boom period still remain. It is a reminder that most mining towns only exist as long as the prices are good and the minerals are plentiful. The octagonal band rotunda was built in 1904 and would have been used by the town's band on Saturday nights. It also had another use, and that was to cover the town's original well, which was believed to have been responsible for an outbreak of typhoid. Murals adorn the public toilet block, thanks to the Kew Primary School. The town was officially named in 1893 after a gold prospector, Tom Kew. From Kew, we went south to Mount Magnet and then east along the Mount Magnet Sandstone Road to the town of Sandstone. Sandstone is another town that owes its existence to the gold rush boom in the late 1890s. Like Kew, it also has its fair share of historical buildings. On Sandstone's 18-kilometre self-drive heritage trail, we first came to Contradiction Well, Sandstone's original water supply. In fact, it predates the town. It was sunk to provide water for prospectors, Cobb & Co coaches and travellers. Out by some old diggings is the State Battery, a rock crushing machine that was moved there from another site in 1904. During its operational life, it treated 135,000 tonnes of ore, producing almost 116,000 ounces of gold bullion. It ceased operation in 1982. This was interesting, but Sandstone's jewel in the crown is the so-called London Bridge. This naturally formed and weathered arch is of basalt rock and is part of a larger formation 800 metres long. And then there's the old Breakaway brewery site. It was built in 1907 to meet the demands of the miners in the area. Built 2 levels high on top of the breakaway, the cellar was blasted out of the rock below. The beer in the cellar was kept amazingly cool by means of a connecting rise, which is a hole bored through the ceiling of the cellar. I'd drink to that. Approximately 280 kilometres southeast of Sandstone is the mining town of Leonora and its adjacent ghost town of Gwalia. Gwalia came into existence due to the Sons of Gwalia gold mine. Within the mine precinct, there are several buildings, including what was the mine manager's house. Rather impressive with a gold mine at the end of the garden. Gwalia is a poetic name for Wales, signifying the Welsh heritage of the original investors. A young American mining engineer named Herbert Hoover was appointed as the mine manager while still in his early 20s. Hoover was also responsible for designing and building the mine manager's house. There were many disputes with upper management over the cost of the building, which was 6 times that of the average house of the time. You can now indulge in a hint of the past opulence with high tea on the veranda. Herbert Hoover was later to serve as the 31st President of the United States. Another building which you can enter now is the Assay Office. This solid brick building was constructed to house the assay furnaces, which are required to determine the quality of gold in the ore that was mined. There are also sheds full of huge steam engines and machinery, including the steam winder installed in 1913, which is one of the largest steam winding engines remaining in Australia. The head frame and winder form part of the hauling system, with the head frame providing guidance to the hauling ropes, which carried the ore, miners and horses. Whereas Sons of Gwalia provided accommodation for senior staff, the workers, who were mainly from Europe, had to source or build accommodation for themselves and their families. In the early 1900s, there were about 1,000 people living in Gwalia, in houses put together with timber, corrugated iron and any cheap materials available. Only a few would have had planks instead of an earth floor. Guest houses like Petroni's Guest Home were built to provide for single men workers. The multi-gabled Maz's store provided the town with almost all of its supplies for over 50 years. It was truly a one-stop shop and sold everything from soap to ammunition. In late 1963, when there was a mine closure, Gwalia's population dropped from 1,200 to 40, instantly becoming a ghost town. The mine reopened in 1983 to open pit mining, but has recently turned to underground operations. Surviving as office space for a succession of mining companies, the once state-owned hotel may get a second life. There are talks in progress about restoring the grand old building as a tourist destination. From Leonora, we travelled the 120 odd kilometres to Laverton, all on good bitumen. The statue of a man with a bicycle is of Dr. Charles Laver. He was a gold prospector, promoter of the town, previously called British Flag, as well as being a hard-working doctor, travelling through the area on his trusty bicycle. At the Great Beyond Explorers Hall of Fame, explorers featured include John Forrest, Ernest Giles, David Carnegie and Frank Hahn, as well as explorer, surveyor and roadmaker Len Bedell. Laverton once had the reputation as the wildest town in the West, but we found things to be rather quiet. Even the supermarket was shut down. Fuel and supplies were available at the roadhouse on the edge of town. From Laverton, we started our journey on the Great Central Road. The first 50 kilometres or so was sealed before it went to mainly dirt. We were now travelling through the Great Victoria Desert, the largest desert in Australia, covering an area of approximately 350,000 square kilometres. The Great Central Road, which would take us to Uluru, is part of a network of roads named the Outback Way. The Outback Way goes from Laverton through Alice Springs to Winton in Queensland, a total of 2,700 kilometres. It is sometimes referred to as Australia's longest shortcut. Once past the Jacala Roadhouse, we started looking for a place to pull over for the night. We spied a couple of wheel tracks off the side of the road and pulled in. Perfect. The next day, we continued east along the Great Central Road to Warburton. Further on, past the Warrakurna Roadhouse, is a scenic area called Schwerin Mural Crescent. The explorer Ernest Giles named the crescent-shaped mountain range in honour of the Princess of Schwerin, who in 1874 married Prince Vladimir, son of the Emperor of Russia. Only Giles would know why he did that. The section of road we were on was actually part of the iconic Gun Barrel Highway, and we were looking out for a particular gum tree that had been blazed in the late 1950s when the road was first built. The original plaque was placed on the tree by explorer, surveyor and roadmaker Len Bedell and his Gun Barrel Road construction party. Len and the party were responsible for the construction of many roads in Central Australia and also for the site of Woomera and its rocket range. From there, we headed on to the Northern Territory border, encountering a herd of camels on the way. It was late in the day with the shadows lengthening, so we made for the camping area at Docker River, just a few kilometres over the border. After a pleasant night, camped amongst the casuarinas or native pines, we packed up and continued further east towards Kata Tjuta, the Olgas. First, we stopped at Junti, the site of Lassiter's Cave. Lewis Harold Bell Lassiter sheltered in this cave during an expedition to rediscover a gold-bearing reef that he claimed he had stumbled across many years before. His camels had bolted, leaving him stranded without food and with little water. He is believed to have perished in January 1931 while trying to reach Mount Olga and hopefully meet up with his support party. Whether the elusive Lassiter's Reef actually existed is still a mystery, with contradictory statements over the years making it impossible to separate history from myth. We now entered tourist country as we approached the domes of Kata Tjuta. There are 36 domes, the highest one known as Mount Olga, and named in 1872 by Ernest Giles in honour of Queen Olga of Württemberg. Although only 25 kilometres from Uluru, Ayers Rock, its composition is completely different. Whereas Uluru is a single rock, Kata Tjuta is conglomerate, consisting of boulders and pebbles of granite and basalt, cemented together by a course of sandstone. Passing by the awe-inspiring rock, Uluru, we continued on to Yalara to fuel up and top up supplies. Then we continued along the Lassiter Highway to Curtin Springs, where we set up in their free camping area. Situated on this 1 million acre working cattle station is the third major landmark in the area. This is Mount Connor, Attila, often referred to as Uluru by locals, as tourists new to the area sometimes mistake it for Uluru. We were hoping to get a closer look at this mystery mountain. Join us in our next Adventure Across Australia episode where we get that closer look at Mount Connor. After moving further east, we hit the dirt again to travel the Unadata track, with its history of the Olgan Railway.